Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. Our next bowl game brings us to a NY6 Bowl Game. Unfortunately, it may be the most lopsided of the NY6, as number 9 Florida will be taking on number 24 Virginia in the Orange Bowl. And you look at Florida here, they're making their first Orange Bowl appearance since 2001, sitting at 10-2, their only losses coming to the two teams that met in the SEC title game, LSU and Georgia. And they have a chance to win their second straight NY6 Bowl game under Dan Mullen in just his second year. As we all know, winning the Peach Bowl last year over Michigan in dominating fashion. Can they do the same to the Cavaliers this year? For Virginia, it's been a historic season for them. They went 9-4 this year, made their first ACC title appearance, and are not just making their first ever Orange Bowl appearance, but are making their first ever NY6 Bowl Game appearance. So that's a huge deal for Bronco Mendenhall and this Cavaliers squad. Even though they lost to Clemson 62-17 in that title game, you can't argue and overlook the job that he has done transforming this program and making them relevant both in the ACC and on the national stage. So we're going to break down this game real quick, and we'll take a look at the offense first. And we'll start with Florida. It was not the way it was supposed to go for the Gators this season. Felipe Franks was the starter for Florida to kick off this 2019 season. But then he went down for an injury, and you never want to see players get hurt. You never want to see players go down and maybe see season-ending or career-ending injuries. But for Florida, Franks being taken out due to injury was probably the best thing that could have happened to them this season. Because Felipe Franks was so inconsistent, did not really take care of the ball, had some really good games, and had some really, really bad games. So when he got hurt, Kyle Trask came in. And all of a sudden, the offense started averaging 300.4 passing yards per game. Trask put up over 2,600 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, and just 6 interceptions, and the offense was averaging 33 points per game. This offense found some life and found some consistency, not just at quarterback, but across the board completely. So Kyle Trask, the man down in Gainesville, and a major reason why the Gators are sitting at 10-2 and playing in this Orange Bowl right now. This offense is extremely explosive, not just led by Kyle Trask, but also led by LaMichael P. Ryan in the running game. They average 120 rushing yards per game, and that's not a bad mark, but it is one that needs to improve a little bit. Now, I don't know if it will make that much of a difference here against Virginia, but if Kyle Trask can play the way he's been playing all year, get 250, 275 through the air, and they can add about another $150 on the ground, Florida's offense will be rolling. It's going to be really good if Florida can find some more balance in this game against Virginia. But the Gators have won their past 3 games by a margin of 119-33. So they're not slowing down at all. They are not slowing down. Some will say, well, just look at the opponents they played. They've been fairly weak. Doesn't matter. They played Florida State out of the ACC, who's going to a bowl game, and they played Vanderbilt out of the SEC. And anytime you can dominate 2 Power 5 schools, regardless of how good they are, it's extremely impressive. When you look at Virginia, we know that the key to their offense, the key to their team, is Bryce Perkins. That's it. It all comes down to Bryce Perkins. If you shut him down, the Virginia team is shut down as a whole. He leads the Cavaliers offense that averages 32.4 points per game, which is a very good mark. Perkins, a little shaky through the air this year, over 3,200 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. So I'm not a fan of that touchdown-interception ratio, but he is the leading rusher for the Cavaliers as well. 745 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. So he is the key. Not only can he beat you through the air, but he can beat you on the ground as well. And that's something that Florida defensively has to be prepared for. He is a very solid dual threat quarterback. We saw it, watch his game against Virginia Tech. At times, watch him in that game against Clemson in the ACC title game. Even though they lost that game very bad, you can go back and watch and see how Bryce Perkins was able to escape the pocket, to make some plays, to extend some drives or maybe, escape and find an open receiver. So that's something that Florida has to be prepared for, and Todd Grantham's defense has to be ready for, facing off against one of the better dual-threat quarterbacks in the entire country. The Cavaliers also averaging 126.5 rushing yards per game. A lot of those still coming from Bryce Perkins, but when they run the ball, that does give them a slightly better and balanced offense than Florida. Maybe not better in terms of explosiveness, but certainly more balanced than the Gators. Something that could serve them well if this game happens to be close down the stretch. Defensively, guys, I tell you what, this is where Florida does have the edge, though. We mentioned the offense, and if you want to look at it and say that they're relatively even when you look at the numbers, that's fine by me. But the defense, it's no contest. Florida owns the edge by a landslide. And this is where the difference maker will be in this game. It will come down to Florida's defensive play. That's how they're going to win this game. The Gators allowing just 14.4 points per game. So barely more than 2 touchdowns on average. And they are playing in the SEC. They are playing in the SEC, guys. The best conference, some will say, in the entire country. And they're allowing that points per game margin. That's extremely impressive. Now, the Gators will be without their cornerback, C.J. Henderson. One of the better cornerbacks in the SEC, maybe even one of the better ones in the entire country. He will not be playing in this game in preparation for the NFL Draft. But the one guy they do have, who's finally has been but will be more healthy in this game and should not be sitting out, is linebacker Jonathan Greenard. And guys, let me tell you what, he is a force for this Florida defense. 49 tackles, 8.5 sacks, 15 tackles for losses, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception, all while playing linebacker. So he's my X factor for Florida's defense here. You're a little beat up in the secondary. You're losing one of your key stars in the secondary. How's that front seven going to do for Florida defensively? They're going to be led by Greenard at linebacker, and we all know that Todd Grantham's defense loves to rush the passer, and we know they can get to the passer. It's not that they just love to do it, it's they can do it, and they can do it effectively. They have 46 sacks on the season, and they have a very good defense that knows how to create turnovers. That's something that Virginia has to be very mindful of. That offensive line has to be able to hold up, because if they can pressure Bryce Perkins and rattle him early, he's going to try to contain him in the pocket. Virginia's going to have a much more difficult time this game offensively than if he were able to escape a little bit more and extend plays with his legs. When you look at Virginia, this is a team that is not bad. They were supposed to have one of the better defenses in the Coastal Division this year out of the ACC. They didn't necessarily live up to those expectations. They're allowing 26.5 points per game, and the key number here is 228.2 passing yards per game. So not great against the pass, which means Kyle Trask and this very, very solid core of wide receivers, one of the better ones in the SEC, might have a field day against this Virginia defense. This is also a team that has allowed 16 sacks in the past 6 games. So their defense is going to have their hands full just against this Florida offense, but their offensive lines allowed 16 sacks in the past 6 games. That's very, very bad. Very, very bad. So they're clearly not improving. Usually you want to see teams start to get better. 16 sacks in the first 6, maybe 4 in the final 6. But that's not what's happening for the Cavaliers. Their offensive lines would have to have a major makeover. They've had about a month to prepare for this game. Close to it. Maybe they can fix some things going up against Florida. So when it's all said and done, I think it's fairly obvious who we're picking in this game. And it's without a doubt the Florida Gators. We broke down the offensive side of the ball. We broke down the defensive side of the ball. And like I said, if you want to say that Virginia is a little more even with Florida offensively, that's fine by me. They do have a dual-threat quarterback, something that always can play a major factor. But the defense, guys, it's no contest. And that's where Florida owns the edge. I don't want to overlook Virginia. Bronco Mendenhall has stunned me before. I look at last year's game in the Belk Bowl where they shut out a solid South Carolina team 28-0. And I know South Carolina is not Florida, and I know the Orange Bowl is not the Belk Bowl. Different years, different teams, different locations. So none of that matters. But Bronco Mendenhall is a guy that I don't like to underestimate. But this defense is for real. You've given Dan Mullen about over a month to prepare for this Orange Bowl. This coaching staff, these players have played in big games before. They played in the Peach Bowl. They've played the likes of LSU and Georgia, so the level of competition is there. The level of experience is there for these players and coaches. And Florida, across the board, just has too much size and speed and physicality to go in there and lose this game. There's no motivation factor about it. Maybe Virginia would be more motivated, but Florida would be just as motivated to go in there, win a New Year's 6 bowl game for the second year in a row, and I'm expecting this game to be over by the end of the third quarter, if not before. There's my bold prediction for this Orange Bowl. This game will be over before the third quarter is over. Third quarter or before, it's over, and Florida will have won the Orange Bowl. They will finish in the top 10 for the second straight year. The first time they will have done so since 2008 to 2010, when they were led by none other than Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow. And Dan Mullen and the Gators will clinch their first 11-win season since 2012. Things are really trending up in Gainesville, and sooner or later, these Gators are going to break through and really make themselves a national power, where New Year's 6 bowl games will be the least of their worries. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here on YouTube. Make sure to like this video and check out everything in the description below. We have the spread pick for this Orange Bowl as well as every other bowl game, so do not miss out on that, and do not miss out on any of the other college football offers and content we have for you. And as always, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.